I do feel vindicated a little bit, but now I also feel bad because I feel like I put marital strain.
Yeah, you just
upon
caused their
two elderly
divorce.
people. Yeah, I'm gonna notice a for sale sign up. I noticed they hadn't taken their bins in, which is very unlike them from the curbside. So I think there's trouble in paradise at the moment.
You should have been
next door.
smarter about hiding the evidence. I think
Yeah,
maybe you
that's
just
what I
got
was
used to it
thinking.
while your house was still under construction and no one cared. But
Yeah.
now that somebody lives there, it's an issue.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably correct. But like, yeah, that seems like such a weird way of hiding evidence is to dump it on someone else's lawn. Like, obviously they're gonna complain, right?
How do you even like hide being a smoker, really? Especially like a
Yeah, because you can
regular
smell it.
smoker. Don't you stink?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
So it was cigarettes, right?
Yeah, cigarettes, like legitimate.
That's such a like small little treat to sneak too. You would think if he sneaks smoking, he'd do like a cigar or weed or something more exotic. You
Well,
know?
a cigar usually is just kind of like a celebratory thing or like a social thing,
Well,
not
he's
so much like a full habit.
He's celebrating sneaking it from his wife. He got away with it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's like, I think he's probably been a smoker throughout his life. And then there might have been an argument or a fight with his wife at some point, and he's gone off it. He said that he's not going to smoke anymore. Now he doesn't smoke. If I'm going to psychoanalyze him, I may as well go the full way. And then so he's maybe the stress of the environment at the moment in terms of banks going under and stuff has caused him to reevaluate his life, and now he wants to smoke again. So
He's
so
plotting
just
the
had to-
murder of his wife.
Yeah. Yeah,
You should
so that was
anonymously gift them a vape.
yeah. I felt like I was, because we also had some troubles with him specifically, not the wife, throughout the building process. He tracked me down in my other property before I had moved into my property, my new property. I mean, he somehow found my address and tracked me down to like sort out like a fencing dispute kind of thing, which I thought was pretty fucked up. Like, tracked me down. Like, my address wasn't public or anything. He just showed up on my door and knocked. And like,
probably just
introduced
asked the
himself.
contractor or something.
I assume so, yeah. But I thought that shit was meant to be like confidential. I don't know. It just felt
I
weird.
highly doubt it.
So yeah, there's been a few issues with him in the past. So I was fully expecting to get into a full-on brawl in the streets about it because he's like a pretty big dude. But yeah, no, it was a nice little conversation with his wife, and I outed him to her, which is good. So
No, he's gonna
see
be
where it
extra
goes.
angry.
yeah, starts dumping meth on my lawn.
Dead animals.
Upgrades, yeah. So I guess along that vein, have you guys ever had any neighbor disputes or any kind of big confrontations
the
in your life
time.
that you can point to? Really?
Mhm.
All the time when I was a teenager
I must have been
in
so lucky.
Turkey. When, like, the thing you have to know, in Turkey, our buildings are basically made out of sand, which is why they collapse if anybody shakes the ground with, like, an earthquake. It also means you can literally hear the neighbors, like, flush their toilets and have disputes with their wives or, like, walk around. And we had the upstairs neighbor from hell. This bitch
man.
would come home drunk at like 3 a.m. and vacuum in stilettos. This is a habit I've still not figured out. She would
Why?
come home at 3 a.m. from some fucking bar, drunk out of her mind, because we would literally yell at her and she would yell at us. I've been yelled at by her. I have yelled at her. And keep in mind, I was like 15, 16 or something. Her older brother came to yell at me and I yelled at him. And oddly enough, one time when I was doing an internship at a tech company, my boss actually knew our upstairs neighbor. And he said, "Oh yeah, that guy's always been an asshole." He literally knew his name and
He's
everything.
known around town.
Yeah,
Get a
I
rep.
guess, yeah, as an asshole neighbor. I mean, his whole family. Anyway,
Oh.
so I would lose my mind though. That if anybody's ever had to suffer through like noise, relentless noise, we lived
During
across the
nighttime, yeah.
fucking nightclub too, which was just awful. But I would snap. I would genuinely just sometimes fucking lose it. I would take like a baseball bat and start hitting the pipes on like the walls and the ceiling to like fucking simmer down, bitch, and shit.
But what about your downstairs neighbor? Now they're going to listen to you beating the pipes.
No, I know. I mean, it's not as if I made a lot of sounds otherwise, unless they made me snap. Of course, I also felt bad. Anyway, they also made the ceiling leak a
Horrible
few
system of
times, so
abuse.
it was just a horrible fucking neighbor. One day their mom died, the elderly one. And I remember like opening our apartment door to the stairwell as they were carrying her body out to the ambulance or something, and I yelled, "That whore is in hell now," and I slapped the door shut.
Holy shit.
You weren't a fan, I could see.
Fuck them. That entire family is hellbound. You know that older brother of her that I just mentioned? He came down to yell at my mother, my single mother, and her like teenage boy son. Like, fuck you. Who the hell does that? They were the trashiest fucking family.
What were they yelling at you guys about?
My mom literally just left them a note. Please stop banging on the floors at 3 a.m. And he somehow took this as the biggest slight in his life. He really had his ego bruised for some fucking reason, because apparently it was his little nephew that was making the noise. Which is like, why the fuck is your 5-year-old like, yeah, like what the fuck? So he was like, actually, I don't know if he was inebriated or what, but he was like spitting, screaming in my face, and he crumpled the paper up and threw it in my face and everything.
It's probably because you suggested that he should parent his nephew, and he didn't like that.
You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, you did go a little far when you suggested that his nephew keep it down at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's a little fucked up.
How's he supposed to express himself?
Yeah.
There's also this thing where Turkish people especially get very defensive about boy children. Like, my boy should be able to do fucking anything, and how dare you tell him to stop, basically. They get very offended over it. But yeah, that was the neighbor from hell. At one time, the neighbor lady herself, also came up to our place to scream at us because my mom had sent her a message to please turn the TV down. So she came home from the fucking bar.
Why were you guys
so fucking drunk?
Oh my
Why
God.
were you guys? Why were you guys constantly sending little notes to them, asking politely?
Just pleading,
Surely,
turn it off. And so she comes, she's screaming at us again, and guys, like, she is so drunk, I can smell it. Like, if I threw a lit match at her, she would light up like a Christmas tree. She was soaked in alcohol. So she screams, she goes back up, and my mom is desperate now. They're still banging on, just making noise, and she's like scared that they're gonna leak the ceiling again. So we call the cops. My mom does.
I was gonna say, when did the cops
in a
get involved?
complaint? Yeah, so she calls the cops. They show up an hour later. One cop. This cop looks like a fucking mugger. I was actually scared of the cop.
He's a part of
He came
their
up to
family.
her. He knocked on the door and he was smoking. He was like, what's the issue? And he had like completely yellowed like hands because he was just, I guess, chain smoking the whole time. He didn't do anything. He said, I knocked on their door and they didn't answer.
He just started making more noise. He starts
He
banging
goes
on
up
their
there and
walls.
starts clogging.
I have to really underline just how scary the police officer looked. I almost called the cops on him again. It's like, this sucks. Nothing was as good for my mental health as just moving out from there into Germany.